The auction block smelled like piss and old blood. Lena stood there with her wrists bound, belly swollen under a dress that hadn't been washed in weeks, while men she'd known her whole life stared at her like she was meat. The rope chafed, the sun beat down, and somewhere in that crowd, her father counted his money before the sale even started. Lot 17, the auctioneer announced, his voice bored. Female, roughly 22 years, pregnant, maybe 6 months along. Healthy enough if you don't mind damaged goods. Laughter rippled through the crowd, crude, ugly laughter that made her skin crawl. Lena kept her eyes on the horizon. She'd learned that trick early. If you looked at nothing, you felt less. If you went somewhere else in your head, the words couldn't touch you. Except they did. They always did. "Who's the father?" someone shouted. "Does it matter?" another man called back. "She's a whore either way." More laughter. The auctioneer grinned, showing tobacco-stained teeth. Now, gentlemen, let's keep this civil. We start the bidding at $20. $20. That's what her father had decided she was worth. She'd expected this, in a way. Not the auction specifically, but the inevitability of being thrown away. Her father, Nathaniel Hartwell, had built his entire life on reputation, on being respectable, God-fearing, upstanding. When his unmarried daughter turned up pregnant, refusing to name the father, that reputation cracked. And Nathaniel Hartwell didn't tolerate cracks. "You've shamed me," he'd said the night before, standing in the doorway of the cellar where he'd locked her. "Shamed this family. Shamed yourself before the whole town." "Then let me leave," Lena had whispered. "I'll go. You'll never see me again." "Too late for that. People talk. They'll keep talking unless I do something about it. So you're selling me. I'm fixing a problem." He'd said it like she was a broken fence or a lame horse, something to be dealt with and forgotten. Now standing on the block with the sun turning her scalp to fire, Lena realized he'd been right about one thing. People did talk. They talked, they pointed, they laughed. And not one of them saw her as human. 25, a voice called out. She didn't look to see who. 30, said another. The auctioneer's grin widened. There we go. $30. Do I hear 35? Lena's hands trembled. She clenched them into fists, nails biting into her palms. Don't cry. Don't give them that. 35! A man near the front, fat and red-faced, waved his hand. She knew him, Turner, the butcher. She'd bought meat from him 100 times. He used to smile at her. Now he was bidding. 40, someone else said. 45. The numbers climbed. Lena's stomach turned. The baby kicked, hard, insistent, and she pressed a hand to her belly, trying to breathe through the nausea. $50, Turner called, louder now, as if volume proved intent. The auctioneer scanned the crowd. $50, going once? 75. The voice came from the back, deep, rough, the kind of voice that didn't ask for attention but took it anyway. The crowd went silent. Lena's eyes flicked up before she could stop herself. Through the sea of faces, she saw him, a man standing apart from the others, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a long coat despite the heat. His face was hard, all sharp angles and old scars, and his eyes were the color of slate. He didn't look at the crowd. He looked at her. Who the hell is that? Someone muttered. Silas Creed, another man whispered, and the name moved through the crowd like a cold wind. Lena had heard the name before. Everyone had. Silas Creed, the mountain man, the killer, the ghost who lived up in the high country and only came down when he needed supplies or when he wanted to remind people why they should stay away. Turner's face had gone pale. Now hold on. $75, Silas repeated, his voice flat. You deaf? The auctioneer hesitated, glancing nervously between Turner and Silas. 75 then. Do I hear? No, Turner said quickly. No, that's no. No one else spoke. The auctioneer licked his lips. 75 going once, twice. He paused, as if hoping someone would save him from this. No one did. Sold. To Mr. Creed. The crowd shifted, uneasy. Men who'd been laughing a minute ago now looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. Silas moved forward, his boots heavy on the dirt, and pulled a small leather pouch from his coat. He tossed it to the auctioneer, who caught it with shaking hands. That's 100, Silas said. Keep the change. Then he walked to the platform, climbed the steps, and stopped in front of Lena. Up close, He was even more terrifying. Scars crossed his face like a map of violence, one through his eyebrow, another along his jaw. His hands, when he reached for the rope binding her wrists, were massive and rough, the knuckles scarred and crooked. But his touch, when he cut the rope with a knife that appeared from nowhere, was careful, deliberate. "You got a name?" he asked. Lena's voice came out hoarse. "Lena." He nodded once. "Can you walk?" "Yes." "Then walk." He turned and started toward the edge of town. Lena, still processing what had just happened, stumbled after him. The crowd parted. No one tried to stop them. No one said a word. Her father was standing near the back, holding the pouch of money Silas had thrown. Their eyes met for half a second. Nathaniel's face was blank. Not angry, not sad, just empty. Like she'd already stopped existing. Lena looked away first. Silas had a horse tied outside the general store, a big gray gelding that looked meaner than most men. He swung up into the saddle with the ease of someone who'd spent more time on horseback than on foot, then held out a hand. Lena stared at it. "You planning to walk 20 miles pregnant?" he asked. She took his hand. His grip was solid, unyielding, and he pulled her up behind him like she weighed nothing. The saddle was hard, the horse was tall, and she had to wrap her arms around Silas's waist to keep from falling. He smelled like leather and wood smoke and something else. Something wild. "Hold on," he said, and kicked the horse into motion. They rode out of Gravel Hollow in silence. Lena looked back once, just once, and saw the town shrinking behind them. The crooked buildings, the dusty streets, the people who'd watched her get sold and done nothing. She felt no sadness, no longing, just a hollow kind of relief. Whatever came next, it couldn't be worse than what she was leaving behind. The mountains rose ahead of them, jagged and green and impossibly vast. Lena had lived her whole life in Gravel Hollow, a town that sat in the shadow of those peaks, but never ventured into them. The mountains were where dangerous things lived, bears, wolves, men like Silas Creed. They rode for hours. The trail climbed steadily, winding through dense forest and over rocky outcroppings that made Lena's stomach lurch. She didn't speak. Neither did Silas. The only sounds were the horse's hooves, the creak of leather, and the wind moving through the trees. By the time the sun started to sink, Lena's entire body ached. Her back screamed, her thighs were raw from gripping the horse. The baby had settled low and heavy, pressing on her bladder until she thought she might cry. "I need to stop," she said finally. Silas didn't answer right away. Then he pulled the horse to a halt and dismounted. "5 minutes," he said, offering his hand again. She slid down awkwardly, her legs nearly buckling when they hit the ground. Silas caught her elbow, steadying her, then let go and walked a few paces away, giving her privacy. Lena stumbled into the trees, found a spot behind a boulder, and relieved herself with a groan of pure gratitude. When she came back, Silas was standing by the horse, scanning the tree line like he expected something to come charging out of it. "How much farther?" she asked. "Another hour, maybe 2. "To where?" "My place." "And then what?" He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Then you rest." "That's it? You spent $100 on me and all you want is for me to rest? You got a problem with that? I've got a lot of problems. I'm trying to figure out which one you are." Something almost like amusement flickered across his face. Almost. "Fair enough." He mounted again, and Lena climbed up behind him, her arms going around his waist out of sheer necessity. This time she let herself lean against him, too tired to care about propriety. His back was solid, warm. For the first time all day, she felt almost safe. Almost. Silas's cabin appeared just as the last light was fading from the sky. It sat in a clearing surrounded by towering pines, built from rough-hewn logs and set into the hillside like it had grown there. Smoke curled from the chimney. A small corral held 2 more horses and a mule. The whole place had the look of something built to last. Sturdy, practical, and completely isolated. Silas dismounted and tied the horse to a post, then helped Lena down. She stood there swaying slightly and looked at the cabin. "This is it?" she asked. "This is it." "You live here alone?" "I do." "And you brought me here because you needed somewhere to go." It was the simplest answer he could have given, and also the most confusing. Lena studied his face, trying to read him, but it was like looking at stone. I don't understand you, she said. You don't have to. He walked to the cabin door, pushed it open, and stepped inside. Lena hesitated, then followed. The interior was smaller than she'd expected, but surprisingly clean. A stone fireplace dominated one wall. A rough-hewn table and chairs sat in the center, and a narrow staircase led to what she assumed was a loft. Shelves lined the walls, holding jars of preserves, sacks of grain, and other supplies. A single oil lamp flickered on the table, casting long shadows. There's a room upstairs, Silas said, nodding toward the stairs. It's yours. Mine? You'll have a bed, a wash basin, privacy. The door locks from the inside. Lena blinked. You're giving me a locked room? That a problem? No, She stopped, trying to process. Why? Because you should be able to lock a door if you want to. It was such a strange thing to say, such a specific thing. Lena felt something tight in her chest loosen, just a fraction. Okay, she said quietly. Silas moved to the fireplace and started building up the fire. There's stew in the pot. Help yourself. I'll bring your things up in a bit. I don't have things. Then I'll find you some. Lena stood there, useless and exhausted, watching him work. He moved with the efficiency of someone who'd lived alone for a long time. No wasted motion, no hesitation. She wanted to ask him 100 questions. She wanted to know why he'd bought her, what he expected, what the hell he was thinking bringing a pregnant stranger into his home. But she was too tired, too wrung out. So instead, she ladled some stew into a bowl, sat at the table, and ate in silence. It was the best thing she'd tasted in months. That night, Lena lay in the narrow bed in the upstairs room, staring at the ceiling. The mattress was thin but clean. The blanket smelled like cedar. And the door had a lock, just like Silas said. She tested it 3 times before finally crawling into bed. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, and somewhere far off, a wolf howled. Lena pressed a hand to her belly, feeling the baby shift and settle. We're still alive, she whispered. That's something. Downstairs, she heard Silas moving around, boots on wood, the scrape of a chair, the creak of the floorboards. Then silence. Lena closed her eyes, and for the first time in weeks, slept without fear. Toks. The next morning, she woke to the smell of coffee and frying bacon. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The auction, the ride, the cabin. Silas. She sat up slowly, her body stiff and sore, and went to the small window. Outside, the clearing was bathed in pale morning light. Silas was already up, splitting wood by the corral with smooth, powerful strokes. His coat was off, his sleeves rolled up, and she could see the muscles in his arms working with each swing of the axe. He looked dangerous, competent, like the kind of man who could kill you without breaking a sweat, but also like the kind who'd make sure you had a warm meal first. Lena washed her face in the basin, tied her hair back as best she could, and made her way downstairs. Silas glanced up when she appeared. Coffee's hot. Bacon's almost done. Thank you. She poured herself a cup and sat at the table. The coffee was strong, bitter, and exactly what she needed. Silas brought over a plate with bacon, eggs, and a thick slice of bread, then sat across from her with his own. They ate in silence. It wasn't uncomfortable exactly, but it wasn't easy either. Lena kept waiting for him to say something, to explain, to demand, to reveal whatever plan he had for her. But he just ate, methodical and focused, like she wasn't even there. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. Why did you buy me? She asked. Silas didn't look up. Seemed like you needed buying. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. You spent $100. I've got money. On a pregnant woman you don't know, and you're telling me you did it just because? He set down his fork and met her eyes. You want a better reason? Fine. I looked at you up there and I saw someone who deserved better than what she was getting. So I did something about it, that's it. No grand plan, no conditions. You're here because you need to be somewhere, and this is somewhere. Lena stared at him. And what do you get out of it? Peace of mind, maybe. I don't know. You don't know? No. She wanted to call him a liar, wanted to accuse him of ulterior motives, hidden intentions, all the things she'd learned to expect from men. But when she looked into his eyes, those hard, unreadable eyes, she saw something she hadn't expected. Truth. Okay, she said quietly. Okay? Okay. I'll stay. For now. Silas nodded and went back to his breakfast. Good enough. The days that followed settled into a rhythm. Silas worked, chopping wood, tending the animals, checking his traps, disappearing into the forest for hours at a time. Lena rested, ate, and slowly started to feel like a person again instead of a problem. He didn't ask about the baby, didn't ask about the father, didn't ask about her past. And in return, she didn't ask about his scars, or why he lived alone, or what kind of man spent $100 on a stranger and expected nothing in return. But she noticed things. She noticed the way he always checked the perimeter before dark, like he expected trouble. The way he kept a rifle by the door and a knife on his belt. The way he moved through the world like someone who'd learned to trust nothing and no one. She also noticed the small kindnesses. The way he left fresh water in her room every morning. The way he built up the fire before she woke so the cabin would be warm. The way he never came upstairs, never pushed, never made her feel like she owed him anything. It was disorienting, confusing, and against all logic, comforting. One evening, about a week after her arrival, Lena came downstairs to find Silas mending a saddle by the fire. She sat at the table and watched him work, his hands deft despite their size. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "You just did. A real question." He didn't look up. "Go ahead. Why do people call you a killer?" His hands stilled. For a long moment he didn't move. Then he set the saddle aside and met her eyes. "Because I've killed people," he said simply. Lena's heart kicked. "How many?" "Enough." "Why?" "Because they needed killing." It should have terrified her, should have sent her running, but instead she found herself asking, "Would you kill me?" "No? How do I know that?" "Because if I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead." It was blunt, brutal, and somehow exactly what she needed to hear. "Okay," she said. Silas picked up the saddle again. "Anything else?" "Not right now." "Good. I've got work to do." Lena went back upstairs, locked the door, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She didn't feel afraid. She felt something else, something she hadn't felt in months. Curious. Another week passed, then another. The baby grew heavier, her belly stretched tighter, and Lena found herself moving slower, sleeping more, and spending long afternoons sitting outside in the sun while Silas worked. One day she found a basket of clothes on her bed, simple dresses, sturdy and clean. She didn't ask where they came from, she just wore them and felt grateful. Another day Silas came back from town with a bundle of fabric and thread. "Thought you might want to make something for the baby," he said, and left it on the table without waiting for a response. Lena picked up the fabric, soft cotton, pale yellow, and felt something crack open inside her. She sat down and cried for the first time since the auction, not from sadness, from something too complicated to name. That night, Silas cooked venison stew, and they ate together in the flickering firelight. Lena worked on a small blanket while he sharpened his knives, and the silence between them felt less like absence and more like companionship. "I'm starting to trust you," Lena said quietly. Silas didn't look up. "Don't." "Why not?" "Because trust gets people killed." "Is that what happened to you?" He set down the whetstone and looked at her. His face was hard, but his eyes held something raw. "Yeah," he said. "That's what happened." Lena wanted to ask more. Wanted to know who he'd trusted, who'd betrayed him, what had turned him into the man he was now. But she could see the wall going up, the shutters closing, and she knew better than to push. "Okay," she said. "I won't trust you, but I'll stay." "Fair enough." They went back to their work, and the fire crackled, and outside the wolves howled at the rising moon. But 3 weeks after Lena arrived, a rider came up the mountain. She was sitting outside stitching the baby's blanket when she heard the horse. Silas was inside, and she called out to him without thinking. He appeared in the doorway, rifle already in hand. "Inside," he said. "Who is it?" "Don't know. Inside, now." Lena obeyed, her heart pounding. She went upstairs to her room and locked the door, listening to the footsteps below, the low murmur of voices. She couldn't make out words, but she could hear tone. Silas's voice flat and hard, the other man's nervous, pleading. Then the door slammed, and the horse rode away. Lena came downstairs to find Silas standing by the window, watching the rider disappear down the trail. "Who was that?" she asked. "Turner, the butcher." Her stomach dropped. "What did he want?" "You? Me?" "Said he wanted to make an offer. Buy you back." Lena's hands clenched. "What did you tell him?" "I told him you're not for sale. And if he comes back, I'll put a bullet in him." Lena exhaled shakily. "He won't be the last." "I know. My father—" "Your father can come too. Same result." Silas turned to look at her, and his eyes were cold. Not angry, just cold, like he'd already made peace with whatever violence was coming. "You're safe here," he said. "Long as I'm alive, you're safe." Lena believed him, and for the first time since she was a child, she felt something close to hope. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, listening to the wind and thinking about Turner, about her father, about all the men who thought they had a claim on her. She thought about the baby growing inside her, about the future she couldn't see, about the strange, scarred man downstairs who'd given her something no one else ever had. A choice. She got up, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and went downstairs. Silas was sitting by the fire, awake, a rifle across his lap. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "No." "Me neither." She sat across from him, pulling the blanket tighter. "Can I ask you something?" "Always do." "Why are you really doing this?" Silas was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I had a sister once. She got into trouble, got pregnant. The man who did it left her. My father threw her out. She died in a camp outside of town, alone, giving birth to a baby that didn't survive." Lena's throat tightened. "I'm sorry. I wasn't there. I was off fighting, thinking I was doing something important. By the time I got back, she was already in the ground. No one even told me until it was over." "That's not your fault." "Doesn't matter. I wasn't there. So when I saw you on that block, I saw her, and I thought, not again. That's it. That's the whole reason." Lena looked at him, this hard, brutal man who'd killed people, who lived alone on a mountain, who'd bought her not because he wanted something, but because he couldn't bear to see it happen again. "Thank you," she whispered. Silas nodded once. "Get some sleep, Lena. Tomorrow's coming whether we're ready or not." She went back upstairs, locked the door, and this time she slept. The days started blurring together after that night by the fire. Not in a bad way, just in the way time moves when you're no longer counting down to disaster. Lena woke with the sun, helped where she could, and spent her afternoon sewing or sitting on the porch watching Silas work. The baby grew heavier, her back ached constantly, but for the first time in months, she wasn't afraid every moment of every day. Silas kept his distance, which she appreciated more than she could say. He'd leave before dawn sometimes, checking his trap lines or hunting, and come back hours later with rabbits or deer. Other days, he'd stay close, mending fences or working in the small garden behind the cabin. He didn't talk much, but his presence was steady, reliable in a way nothing else in her life had ever been. One morning, about a month after Turner's visit, Lena came downstairs to find Silas at the table with a pile of leather scraps and metal buckles. "What's that?" she asked, pouring herself coffee. "Making you something." "Making me what?" He held up a partially assembled contraption, straps and padding arranged in a way that made no sense to her. "Sling, for the baby, so you can carry it and still have your hands free." Lena stared at him. "You're making me a baby sling. That a problem?" "No, I just didn't know you could do that." "I can do a lot of things." She sat down across from him, cradling her coffee. "Where'd you learn?" "Here and there. You pick things up when you live alone." He threaded a strap through a buckle, testing the tension. "Figured you'd need it. Can't hold a baby all day and still get work done." "What work?" "I'm not doing anything." "You will be. Once the baby comes, you'll need to keep busy. Helps with the madness." Lena raised an eyebrow. "You know a lot about babies." "I know about being alone with your thoughts. Same principle." It was such a strange, blunt thing to say that Lena almost laughed. Almost. Instead, she watched him work, his scarred hands moving with surprising precision. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Don't thank me yet. Might not even work. Still, thank you." He grunted and went back to his work. Lena sipped her coffee and felt something warm settle in her chest. Not love. She wasn't fool enough to call it that. but something adjacent. Gratitude, maybe. Or just the relief of not being alone. Later that day, she helped him in the garden. Well, helped was generous. Mostly, she sat on a stool and pulled weeds within arm's reach while Silas did the actual labor. The sun was warm, the air smelled like pine and earth, and for a while, Lena let herself imagine this could last. That maybe, just maybe, she could build something here. Then she saw the rider. He was still far off, just a dark shape moving through the trees on the trail below. But Lena's stomach dropped anyway. Silas. He looked up from where he was digging, saw where she was looking, and his face went hard. Inside. Is it inside? Now! Lena pushed herself up, awkward and slow, and made her way to the cabin. Her heart hammered. She wanted to look back to see who it was, but Silas was already moving toward the corral, rifle in hand, and she knew better than to argue. She went upstairs, locked the door, and pressed her ear against it. Footsteps below. The creak of the front door opening. Then voices, low, tense. You're not welcome here. That was Silas, cold and flat. Didn't come for a warm welcome. The other voice was unfamiliar, rough, older. Came to talk business. We don't have business. Maybe not, but Nathaniel Hartwell does. Lena's breath caught. Her father. Of course. He know you're here, Silas asked. He sent me. Wants his daughter back. She's not his anymore. That's not how he sees it, and frankly, mister, it's not how the law sees it either. Girl belongs to her family until she's married off proper. You bought her, sure, but that don't make it legal. Legal, Silas laughed, sharp and humorless. You want to talk legal? Fine. She stays here of her own choice. She's got a locked door and the key. That sound like a prisoner to you? Don't matter what it sounds like, matters what it is. Nathaniel wants her back and he's willing to pay. Double what you spent plus extra for your trouble. There was a pause. Lena held her breath. No, Silas said. You're making a mistake. I've made worse. Nathaniel's a respected man. Got friends, connections. You really want to make an enemy of him? He made an enemy of me the day he put his daughter on a block like livestock. Now get off my land before I put you off it. You threatening me? I'm telling you, there's a difference. Another pause. Then the sound of boots on wood, retreating. The door slammed. Lena exhaled shakily and moved to the window. From there she could see the rider, a lean man in a dark coat, mounting his horse. He looked back at the cabin once, his face hard, then kicked his horse and rode off. Silas stood in the doorway, rifle still in hand, watching until the man disappeared. Then he turned and looked up at the window. Their eyes met. He nodded once, just once, and went back inside. Lena sat on the bed, her hands shaking. Her father wasn't going to let this go. She'd known that deep down, but hearing it confirmed made it real, made it immediate. She stayed upstairs for a long time, staring at the wall, trying to think, trying to plan. But every thought led to the same conclusion. This wasn't over. Not even close. When she finally came downstairs, Silas was at the table, cleaning his rifle. He didn't look up. My father sent him, Lena said. I know. He's going to send more. I know that too. And you're not going to give me back. No. Even if it means trouble. Silas looked up then, his eyes steady. Especially if it means trouble. Lena sat down across from him. Why? Because you don't want to go back. That's reason enough. You don't owe me anything. I don't do things because I owe people. I do them because they're right. And this is right? You tell me. You want to go back to Gravel Hollow? Back to your father? No. Then it's right. It was the simplest logic in the world, and yet it hit Lena like a fist to the chest. He wasn't keeping her because he owned her. He was keeping her because she wanted to stay. Thank you, she whispered. Silas went back to his rifle. Stop thanking me. You're making it weird. Despite everything, Lena smiled. That night, she dreamed of her father. He was standing in the doorway of the cabin, counting money, his face blank. Behind him, men with torches waited in the dark. Lena tried to run, but her legs wouldn't move. The baby kicked, hard and insistent, and she woke with a gasp. The room was dark. Silent. She pressed a hand to her belly, feeling the baby shift and settle. and tried to slow her breathing. From downstairs, she heard movement. Footsteps. The creak of a chair. Silas was awake too. Lena got up, wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, and went downstairs. Silas was sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. He didn't look surprised to see her. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Bad dream." "Yeah, I get those." She sat in the other chair, pulling her knees up as much as her belly would allow. "You think he'll come himself, my father?" "Eventually." "And when he does?" "I'll handle it." "That's not an answer." Silas poked at the fire with a stick, sending sparks spiraling up the chimney. "Your father's a coward. Cowards don't do their own dirty work. He'll send men first, test the water. See if I scare easy." "Do you?" "No." "What if they come in numbers? What if—" "Lena." He looked at her, his face serious. "I've fought in wars. I've killed men who were trying to kill me, and I've walked away from things that should have buried me. Your father and his hired hands don't scare me. What scares me is you thinking you're not worth the trouble." Lena's throat tightened. "I'm not." "You are. And you need to start believing that, because when they come, and they will come, you can't hesitate. You can't second guess. You have to know, in your bones, that you deserve to be here. You understand?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. "Good. Now get some sleep. I'll keep watch." Lena went back upstairs, but she didn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and tried to believe what Silas had said. Tried to feel it, but the doubt was still there, heavy and cold, whispering that she was a burden, a problem, something to be solved. The baby kicked again, and Lena pressed both hands to her belly. "I'm trying," she whispered. "I'm trying." The next few days were tense. Silas stayed close to the cabin, always armed, always watching. Lena tried to help where she could, but her body was slowing down. The baby sat low now, pressing on everything, making even simple tasks exhausting. She spent most of her time sewing, tiny clothes, blankets, anything to keep her hands busy and her mind off the inevitable. One afternoon, Silas came back from checking the perimeter with a grim expression. "What is it?" Lena asked. "Tracks. 3 horses, maybe 4, circling the property." "When?" "Last night, maybe early this morning." Lena's hand stilled on the fabric she was stitching. "They're scouting." "Yeah." "How long before they come?" "Days, maybe a week. Hard to say." She set down the sewing and looked at him. "What do we do?" "We prepare." Over the next few days, Silas turned the cabin into a fortress. He reinforced the shutters, checked every window, moved supplies into the cellar. He taught Lena how to load the rifle, how to aim, how to fire. She was clumsy at first, her hands shaking, but he was patient, relentless, but patient. "You're not going to be sharpshooting anyone, Sit," he said. "But if someone gets past me, you need to be able to slow them down. Buy yourself time. And if they get past both of us, they won't." "Silas, they won't." There was no room for argument in his voice. Lena nodded and kept practicing. One evening, while they were eating dinner, she asked, "What happened to you, before all this?" Silas looked up, his expression unreadable. "What do you mean?" "You said you fought in a war. You've got scars. You live alone on a mountain. What happened?" He was quiet for a long time. Then he set down his fork and leaned back in his chair. "I was a soldier. Spent years fighting for causes I didn't understand and men I didn't respect. Saw things no one should see. Did things I can't undo." "Like what?" "Like killing people who probably didn't deserve it. Like following orders I knew were wrong because I was too much of a coward to say no." "That doesn't make you a coward. Doesn't make me a hero either." Lena studied his face. The scars, the hard lines, the eyes that had seen too much. "You saved me. I bought you. That's not the same thing. You gave me a choice. That's everything." Silas looked away, his jaw tight. "Don't make me into something I'm not, Lena. I'm not good. I'm just less bad than the alternatives." "I don't believe that." "Then you're a fool." It should have stung, but it didn't, because Lena could see the truth beneath the words. The shame, the self-loathing, the belief that he didn't deserve anything good. It was a mirror of her own thoughts, and recognizing it in him made her ache. "Maybe I am," she said quietly, "but I'm still here." Silas didn't respond. He just went back to his dinner, and Lena did the same, and the silence between them felt heavier than words. 2 days later, they came. Lena was inside, folding laundry, when she heard the horses. Her heart lurched. She dropped the clothes and moved to the window, peering through the shutters. 4 men on horseback, moving slowly up the trail. They weren't trying to hide. They wanted to be seen. "Silas!" He was already at the door, rifle in hand. "Upstairs. Lock the door. Don't come down unless I call for you." "Silas, go!" Lena ran upstairs, her body awkward and heavy, and locked herself in. She pressed her ear to the door, listening. The horses stopped outside. Boots hit the ground. Then a voice, loud, confident. "Silas Creed, we're here on behalf of Nathaniel Hartwell. We're not looking for trouble." "Then you came to the wrong place." That was Silas, cold and flat. "We just want the girl. Hand her over, and we'll be on our way." "She's not going anywhere." "Now see, that's a problem, because Nathaniel's her father. He's got a legal right to her. You're harboring stolen property." "She's not property." "That's not for you to decide." There was a pause. Lena held her breath. "I'm going to give you one chance," Silas said. "Turn around, ride back to Gravel Hollow. Tell Nathaniel he's not getting her back. If you do that, you walk away alive." One of the men laughed. "You're one man. There's 4 of us." "I've faced worse odds." "Maybe. But are you willing to die for a whore who's not even yours?" The crack of the rifle was deafening. Lena flinched, her hands flying to her belly. There was a scream, short, cut off, and then chaos. Shouts, more gunfire, the panicked whinny of horses. Lena crouched by the door, shaking. She wanted to look, wanted to know what was happening, but she was frozen. The baby kicked hard, as if sensing her fear, and she pressed both hands to her stomach. "It's okay," she whispered. "It's okay. We're okay." The gunfire stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Lena strained to hear something, anything, but there was nothing, just the wind and the faint creak of the cabin settling. Then footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, slow. Lena grabbed the rifle Silas had left for her and aimed it at the door, her hands trembling so badly she could barely hold it. "Lena!" Silas's voice, rough but steady. "It's me. Open the door." She unlocked it with shaking hands and pulled it open. Silas stood there, blood on his shirt, his face grim. He wasn't hurt, at least not badly, but there was a wildness in his eyes she hadn't seen before. "Are they—" "2 dead. 2 ran. They won't be back." Lena lowered the rifle, her legs almost giving out. Silas caught her, steadying her, and for a moment they just stood there, breathing hard. "You're okay?" he asked. "I'm okay. Are you?" "I'm fine." "Silas, there's blood. It's not mine." He stepped back, his expression hardening. "We need to move the bodies. Bury them before they start to smell." "You're going to bury them?" "Can't just leave them. Wolves will come, and I don't need that kind of attention." Lena nodded numbly. "What do you need me to do?" "Nothing. Stay inside. Rest." "I can help." "No." His voice was firm. "You've been through enough today. Let me handle this." Lena wanted to argue, but the exhaustion was already pulling at her. She nodded and sat on the bed, watching as Silas disappeared back downstairs. Through the window, she could see him dragging the bodies into the trees, methodical and efficient, like he'd done this before. Maybe he had. By the time the sun set, the bodies were gone, the blood scrubbed from the porch, and the horses Silas had kept were tied in the corral. He came back inside, washed up, and sat at the table without a word. Lena came downstairs and poured him coffee. He took it without looking at her. "You didn't have to kill them," she said quietly. "Yes, I did." "They could have just left." "They wouldn't have. Men like that don't leave. They come back with more men, more guns, and next time we might not be so lucky." He looked at her, his eyes hard. "I did what I had to do. If you can't live with that, say so now." Lena met his gaze. "I can live with it." "You sure?" "They came here to take me, to drag me back to a man who sold me. You stopped them. I'm not going to cry over that." Silas nodded slowly. "Good. Because this isn't over. Nathaniel's going to hear about this, and he's going to come himself. And when he does, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Then we'll deal with it." "We?" "Yes, we." For the first time since the shooting, something softened in Silas's face. All right, we. That night, Lena couldn't sleep again. She kept seeing the blood on Silas's shirt, hearing the crack of the rifle, imagining what would have happened if he'd missed, if they'd gotten past him, if they'd taken her. She went downstairs and found Silas by the fire, awake as always. Can't keep doing this, he said without looking at her. Doing what? Coming down here every time you can't sleep. You need rest. So do you. I'm used to it. Lena sat down anyway. I keep thinking about what you said, that I need to believe I'm worth the trouble. And? I'm trying, but every time I close my eyes, I see my father's face. I hear him telling me I'm worthless, that I'm a shame to the family, and I start to think maybe he's right. Silas was quiet for a moment. Then he said, my father used to beat me, said I was weak, useless, that I'd never amount to anything. I believed him for a long time, joined the army to prove him wrong, killed men, won medals, did everything I thought would make him proud. And you know what? It didn't matter, because he was dead by the time I got back, and all I had left was blood on my hands and a head full of ghosts. Lena looked at him. What changed? Nothing. I still hear his voice, still think he was right most days. But I learned something. What? That it doesn't matter if he was right. I'm still here. I'm still breathing. And I get to decide what that means. Not him. Me. Lena felt tears sting her eyes. I don't know how to do that. You do it one day at a time. You wake up, you keep going, and you tell that voice in your head to shut the hell up. Eventually it gets quieter. Does it ever go away? No, but it gets easier to ignore. Lena nodded, wiping her eyes. Okay. Okay? Okay, one day at a time. Silas almost smiled. Almost. That's all any of us can do. They sat in silence after that, the fire crackling between them. And for the first time since the auction, Lena felt something shift inside her. Not hope, exactly, but something close. Something that whispered, maybe you can survive this. Maybe you can build something here. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The following week passed in uneasy quiet. No more riders, no more threats, just the two of them, preparing for whatever came next. Silas finished the baby sling and gave it to Lena without ceremony. She tested it, adjusting the straps, and found it fit perfectly. It's good, she said. Should be. I'm not an amateur. I never said you were. You were thinking it. Lena laughed. Actually laughed, and Silas looked at her like she'd grown a second head. What? She asked. Nothing, just hadn't heard you laugh before. Hadn't had much reason to. Fair enough. They went back to work, but something had shifted. The tension was still there, the awareness of danger lurking just beyond the tree line, but beneath it was something else. A fragile kind of peace. A sense that maybe, against all odds, they were building something that could last. Lena didn't let herself think too far ahead. Didn't let herself imagine a future where her father wasn't a threat, where the baby grew up safe, where she and Silas were something more than two broken people clinging to survival. But late at night, when she couldn't sleep, she let herself wonder. Just a little. Just enough to keep going. The quiet lasted exactly 9 days. Lena counted them, marking each sunrise like a prisoner tallying her sentence. On the 10th day, the weather turned. Dark clouds rolled in from the west, heavy and bruised, and the air took on that electric smell that promised violence. Silas spent the morning securing everything that could blow away, his movements sharp and efficient. Storm's coming, he said, like she couldn't see it herself. How bad? Bad enough. We'll be stuck inside for a few days, maybe more. Lena watched the clouds gathering and felt her stomach knot. Being trapped in the cabin didn't worry her. What worried her was the timing. The baby had dropped lower 2 days ago, pressing so hard on her pelvis she could barely walk. Her back ached constantly, and she'd been having irregular cramps that came and went without pattern. She knew what it meant. The baby was coming soon, maybe too soon. I need to tell you something, she said. Silas looked up from where he was stacking firewood. What? The baby, I think it's close. His hand stilled. How close? I don't know. Days, maybe? Could be a week? Could be tonight. Silas straightened, his face unreadable. You been having pains? Some? Nothing regular yet. Can you tell the difference between the real thing and the not real thing? No, I've never done this before. He nodded slowly, processing. All right, we'll be ready either way. I've delivered foals, calves. Can't be that different. Lena wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it, but her throat was too tight. It's a lot different. Maybe, but the principle's the same. Something needs to come out. We help it come out. He said it so matter-of-factly, like they were discussing fixing a fence, and somehow that made it less terrifying. Okay, Lena said. Okay? I trust you. Silas looked at her for a long moment, something complicated moving behind his eyes. Then he went back to stacking wood. Don't trust me too much. I'm making this up as I go. The first drops of rain started falling before noon. By evening, it was a downpour. Thunder rolled through the mountains, shaking the cabin walls, and lightning split the sky in jagged white lines. Lena sat by the fire, trying to sew, but her hands kept shaking. The baby was restless, moving constantly, and the cramping had gotten worse. You all right? Silas asked from across the room. Fine. You're lying. I'm fine enough. He came over and crouched in front of her, studying her face. How bad is it? It hurts, but it's not time yet. I don't think. You don't think. I don't know, Silas. I've never done this. I don't know what it's supposed to feel like. He nodded and stood, running a hand through his hair. All right. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to keep track. Every time you get a pain, you tell me. We'll time them. If they start coming regular, we'll know. And then what? Then we deal with it. It was such a Silas answer, blunt, practical, utterly unhelpful, and somehow reassuring all at once. Lena nodded and went back to her sewing, but she couldn't focus. The storm raged outside, the baby kicked inside, and the cramps came and went like waves. By midnight, she gave up trying to sleep. She came downstairs to find Silas at the table, sharpening his knife by lamplight. Can't sleep either? She asked. Never can during storms. Why not? Reminds me of the war. Artillery sounded like thunder, made it hard to tell what was coming. Lena sat down across from him. Do you miss it? The war? No? Not even a little? There's nothing to miss, just blood and mud and men screaming. Why would I miss that? I don't know. Some men talk about it like it was the best time of their lives. Those men are liars or lunatics. He tested the edge of the blade, then set it aside. The war made me good at killing. That's all it did. Doesn't mean I enjoyed it. But you kept doing it after. Because people kept needing killing. Like those men who came for me. Yeah, like them. Lena traced a knot in the wood with her finger. Does it bother you, killing them? Silas was quiet for a moment. I sleep fine, if that's what you're asking. They made their choice. I made mine. That's the end of it. Just like that? Just like that. Lena wished she could be that certain about anything. I don't know if I could do it. Kill someone. Hope you never have to find out. What if I do? What if they get past you and I have to... They won't get past me. But if they do... Lena. He leaned forward, his eyes hard. If it comes down to you or them, you do whatever you have to do. You don't think, you don't hesitate, you just act. Because that half second of doubt is what gets you killed. You understand? She nodded, her throat tight. Say it. I understand. Good. He sat back, his expression softening slightly. But it won't come to that. I'll make sure of it. A cramp hit her then, harder than the others, and Lena gasped. Silas was on his feet instantly. What is it? Just a cramp. It's fine. How long since the last one? I don't know. 20 minutes? That's not fine. That's closer than it should be. It's probably nothing. Another one hit, and this time Lena couldn't hide it. She doubled over, pressing both hands to her belly, breathing through clenched teeth. Silas knelt beside her, his hand on her back. Breathe, just breathe. I am breathing. Slower, deeper. She tried, but the pain was sharp and insistent, radiating from her belly to her back. It lasted maybe 30 seconds, then faded. Lena slumped in the chair, sweating. That's it, Silas said. You're going upstairs. Now. I'm fine. You're in labor, or close enough that we need to be ready. Come on. He helped her up, and Lena didn't argue. She let him guide her upstairs to her room, where he'd already laid out clean sheets and towels. The bed looked suddenly ominous, like a place where something terrible was about to happen. "Lie down," Silas said. "I don't want to lie down." "Then sit. Just get off your feet." Lena sat on the edge of the bed, her hands gripping the blanket. Another cramp came and she rode it out, counting breaths. When it passed, Silas was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. Just trying to remember what I'm supposed to do." "That's not reassuring." "Wasn't trying to be reassuring. I'm trying to keep you alive." "Great. Wonderful. That makes me feel so much better." Despite the fear and the pain, Silas almost smiled. "You've got a mouth on you when you're scared. And you've got terrible timing." "Yeah, well, the baby's got worse." The contractions kept coming, getting closer and harder. Silas stayed with her, timing them, bringing water, helping her move when she needed to move, and holding still when she needed to be still. Hours passed. The storm outside intensified, rain hammering the roof, wind howling through the trees. Inside, Lena labored, and Silas did what he could, which felt like nothing and everything all at once. By dawn, she was exhausted. The contractions were 5 minutes apart, relentless, and her body was doing things she had no control over. Silas had stopped trying to make her comfortable and was just focused on keeping her breathing. "I can't do this," Lena gasped. "Yes, you can." "I can't. It's too much. I can't." "You don't have a choice. The baby's coming whether you're ready or not." "That's not helping." "I'm not here to help. I'm here to make sure you both survive." Another contraction hit, and Lena screamed. She couldn't help it. The pain was beyond anything she'd imagined, like her body was being torn apart from the inside. Silas held her hand, his grip solid, and when she squeezed hard enough to hurt, he didn't flinch. "That's it," he said. "Let it out. Don't hold back." "I hate you right now." "I know. I don't care. Keep breathing." The morning dragged into afternoon. The storm showed no signs of stopping, and neither did the labor. Lena lost track of time, lost track of everything except the pain and Silas's voice, steady and rough, telling her to breathe, to push, to keep going. "I need to check," he said at one point. "Check what?" "How far along you are." Lena was too exhausted to be embarrassed. "Fine. Do it." Silas washed his hands, then gently examined her. His face was grim when he pulled back. "What?" Lena asked. "You're close, real close. Next few contractions, you're going to start pushing." "I don't know how." "Your body knows. Just listen to it. What if something goes wrong?" "It won't." "You don't know that." "No, but I'm going to act like I do, because you need me to." He met her eyes. "I won't let anything happen to you, or the baby. I swear it." Lena wanted to believe him, needed to believe him, so she nodded and braced herself for what came next. The pushing was worse than the contractions, worse than anything. Lena bore down with everything she had, feeling like she was going to split in half, and Silas was there, his hand steady, his voice calm. "That's it. Again. One more." "I can't." "You can. Do it again." She pushed and pushed and pushed until she thought she'd die from the effort. And then, suddenly, there was a release, a shift, and Silas was moving, his hands sure, and then he was holding something small and slick and bloody. "It's a girl," he said, his voice rough. The baby cried, a thin, reedy wail that cut through the storm like a knife. Lena collapsed back against the pillows, sobbing. Silas wrapped the baby in a clean towel, wiped her face, then placed her on Lena's chest. "She's here," he said. "You did it." Lena looked down at the tiny, furious creature on her chest and felt something crack open inside her. The baby was red-faced and squalling, her fists clenched, her eyes squeezed shut. She was perfect. She was terrifying. She was real. "Hi," Lena whispered, her voice breaking. "Hi, baby." The baby quieted at the sound of her voice, and Lena felt tears streaming down her face. She looked up at Silas, who was watching them both with an expression she'd never seen on him before. Something soft. Something almost like wonder. "Thank you," Lena said. Silas shook his head. "You did all the work. You kept me alive." "You kept yourself alive. I just didn't let you give up." Lena laughed, exhausted and giddy and completely overwhelmed. "What do we do now?" "Now you rest. I'll take care of the rest." He moved around the room, cleaning up, making sure Lena was comfortable, checking the baby. His hands, which had killed men without hesitation, were gentle as he swaddled the tiny girl and placed her back in Lena's arms. "She's so small," Lena said. "She'll grow." "What if I mess this up?" "You won't. You don't know that." "I know you. You'll figure it out." Lena looked at him, this hard, brutal man who'd saved her in more ways than one, and felt something shift in her chest. Not love. Not yet. But something close, something that felt like the beginning of it. "Stay," she said, "just for a little while." Silas hesitated, then pulled a chair over and sat down beside the bed. "I'm not going anywhere." Lena closed her eyes, the baby warm and solid against her chest, and for the first time in her life, she felt safe. The storm raged outside for 2 more days. During that time, Lena recovered, the baby nursed, and Silas kept them both alive. He cooked, cleaned, changed the baby when Lena was too exhausted to move, and stood watch at night like he expected the world to come crashing through the door. On the 3rd day, the storm broke. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and the world outside looked scrubbed clean. Lena came downstairs slowly, the baby in her arms, and found Silas at the table with his rifle. "You expecting trouble?" she asked. "Always." "Nothing's happened." "Yet." Lena sat down across from him, adjusting the baby in her arms. "You think they're coming?" "I know they are. Your father's not the kind of man who lets things go. He sent men. Those men didn't come back. Now he knows I'm serious, which means next time he'll come himself." "When?" "Soon. Maybe today. Maybe tomorrow. But soon." Lena looked down at her daughter, so small and fragile, and felt a surge of something fierce and protective. "Then we'll be ready." "We? You think I'm just going to hide upstairs and let you handle this alone?" "That's exactly what I think." "Well, you're wrong." Silas leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You just gave birth 3 days ago." "I'm aware." "You can barely walk." "I'll manage." "Lena." "No." She met his eyes, her jaw set. "This is my fight too. He's my father. This is my life. And I'm not hiding anymore." Silas was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right, but you follow my lead. You don't take risks, and if I tell you to run, you run. Agreed?" "Agreed." They spent the rest of the day preparing. Silas positioned rifles at every window, stacked ammunition on the table, and went over the plan until Lena could recite it in her sleep. If they came, she'd take the baby upstairs, lock the door, and wait. If they got past Silas, which he swore they wouldn't, she'd use the rifle he'd left for her. "You remember how to load it?" he asked. "Yes." "And how to aim?" "Yes." "Good. You won't need it. But good." That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She lay in bed with the baby beside her, listening to the wind and wondering when it would come. The waiting was almost worse than the fighting. At least in a fight, you knew what you were dealing with. Around midnight, she heard it. Horses. Multiple horses, moving slow and deliberate up the trail. "Silas," she called softly. "I hear them." Lena got up, wrapping the baby in a blanket, and went to the window. In the moonlight, she could see them, 5 riders moving through the trees. And at the front, sitting tall in the saddle, was her father. Nathaniel Hartwell looked the same as he always had. Straight-backed, stern-faced, dressed in his Sunday best like he was going to church instead of starting a war. Behind him were 4 men Lena didn't recognize, all armed, all hard-looking. "Get upstairs," Silas said. "Not yet." "Lena, not yet." The riders stopped outside the cabin. Nathaniel dismounted, smoothed his coat, and walked to the porch like he owned it. He knocked on the door, actually knocked, and Lena almost laughed at the absurdity. Silas opened the door, rifle in hand. "Nathaniel." "Mr. Creed." Nathaniel's voice was calm, measured. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." "I don't have anything that belongs to you. My daughter is upstairs, of her own free will, with her child." Nathaniel's expression didn't change. "I'm here to bring her home." "She is home." "This isn't her home. It's an arrangement, one that needs to end." "She doesn't want to go with you. That's not for her to decide." "Actually," Lena said, stepping forward, "it is." Both men turned to look at her. Nathaniel's face went hard. "Lena, come down here. We're leaving. No. Don't make this difficult. I'm not going with you. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. I'm staying here with Silas and my daughter. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. That child is a bastard, born of sin and shame. You think you can just... She's my daughter, Lena interrupted, and she's perfect, and I'm not letting you anywhere near her. I'm your father. You sold me. On a block. Like I was livestock. You don't get to call yourself my father anymore. Something flickered in Nathaniel's eyes. Anger, maybe, or hurt. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by cold resolve. I see. Then I'll have to take you by force. You can try, Silas said, raising the rifle. But you won't make it past this porch. The men behind Nathaniel shifted, hands moving to their guns. The air crackled with tension. Lena held her daughter tighter, her heart pounding. This doesn't have to end in bloodshed, Nathaniel said. Just give me my daughter and we'll leave peacefully. I already told you, she's not yours anymore. Then I'll see you both hanged for kidnapping. Go ahead, bring the law, bring whoever you want. She stays here. Nathaniel stared at Silas, then at Lena. For a moment she thought he might back down, might turn around and leave and never come back. Then he nodded to his men. Take her. They moved fast, guns drawn, rushing the porch. Silas fired, and one man went down. The others scattered, returning fire, and the night erupted in chaos. Lena ran upstairs, the baby screaming in her arms, and locked herself in. She could hear shouting, gunfire, the crash of breaking wood. She pressed herself into the corner, covering the baby with her body, and prayed, not to any deity, but to the universe itself, that Silas would survive. The fighting seemed to last forever. Then suddenly, it stopped. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, slow. Lena grabbed the rifle, her hand shaking, and aimed it at the door. Lena, it's me! She unlocked the door. Silas stood there, blood on his face, his shirt torn. But he was alive. Is it over? She asked. 2 dead. 3 ran, including your father. He ran? Yeah. Guess he's not as brave as he pretends. Lena felt something cold and sharp settle in her chest. He'll come back. Maybe, but not tonight. She looked at the baby in her arms, still crying, and felt tears sting her eyes. I thought we'd have more time. We've got all the time we need. They know now. They know you're not going back. That's half the battle. And the other half? Making sure they never try again. Lena nodded, exhausted and terrified and fiercely, desperately grateful that Silas was still standing. Thank you. Stop thanking me. I mean it. I know, but stop anyway. We're not done yet. He was right. They weren't done. Not by a long shot. But standing there, in the lamplight, with the baby between them, and the bodies outside waiting to be buried, Lena felt something solidify inside her. She wasn't a victim anymore. She wasn't something to be bought, sold, or claimed. She was a mother, a fighter, someone who'd survived the worst and come out the other side. And she wasn't going back. Not ever. Silas buried the bodies before dawn. Lena watched from the window, the baby asleep against her chest, as he dug 2 graves in the hard ground behind the cabin. He worked methodically, his movements efficient despite the obvious pain in his shoulders. There was blood dried on his collar, a gash above his eye that needed stitching, but he hadn't let her look at it yet. The sky was still dark when he started, just a thin line of gray on the eastern horizon. By the time he finished, the sun was breaking over the mountains, painting everything gold. Lena had watched the entire time, unable to look away. Each shovelful of dirt felt like punctuation. This happened. This was real. These men came to take her, and now they were going into the ground. When he came back inside, his clothes were soaked with sweat despite the cold. He washed his hands in the basin, wincing as the water hit his scraped knuckles. The water turned pink, then red, swirling down the drain. Sit down, Lena said. Let me see. I'm fine. You're bleeding. Sit. He sat, more from exhaustion than obedience, and let her examine the cut above his eye. It was deep, still seeping blood, the edges ragged. She cleaned it as gently as she could, but he didn't flinch, just stared straight ahead, his jaw tight. This needs stitches, she said. I know. Can you do it yourself? Done it before. That's not what I asked. Silas looked at her, his eyes tired, Dark circles underneath, lines around his mouth she hadn't noticed before. I'd rather you do it. Lena's hands trembled as she threaded the needle. She'd never stitched human skin before, only fabric, and the thought of pushing a needle through Silas's flesh made her stomach turn. But she steadied herself, took a breath, and started. The first puncture was the hardest, feeling the resistance of skin, the slight pop as the needle went through. Silas didn't make a sound, just sat there, jaw tight, breathing steady. She worked slowly, carefully, trying to keep the stitches even. Her mother had taught her to sew when she was 6, tiny, precise stitches that wouldn't show on the finished garment. She tried to apply the same principle here, even though she knew it didn't matter. The scar would show regardless. When she finished, she tied off the thread and stepped back. There, done. Thanks. Don't thank me. I probably did it wrong. Did it good enough. He stood, tested his range of motion. The stitches pulled but held, better than I would have done. The baby stirred in the makeshift cradle Silas had fashioned from a drawer and blankets. Lena picked her up, settling into the rocking chair by the fire. The baby's eyes were still unfocused, her movements jerky and uncoordinated. But when Lena held her close, she settled immediately. That small weight against her chest, that tiny heartbeat, it was the only thing keeping Lena from falling apart. She doesn't even have a name yet, Lena said quietly. Silas glanced over. He was at the stove now, making coffee. The familiar ritual of it, measuring grounds, heating water, seemed to steady him. You got one in mind? I don't know. Everything I think of sounds wrong. Give it time. The right name will come. What if it doesn't? Then you pick one anyway. She can't go around nameless forever. Lena looked down at her daughter's small face, trying to imagine what to call her. What name could possibly fit this tiny person who'd already survived so much just by being born? Nothing felt right. Everything felt inadequate. What was your sister's name? She asked. Silas went still. The coffee pot hung suspended in his hand halfway to the stove. For a moment, Lena thought he wouldn't answer. Then he set the pot down carefully and turned to face her. Why? His voice was flat, but she could hear the tension underneath. Just curious. He was quiet for a long time. Long enough that Lena started to regret asking. Then he said, Anna. Her name was Anna. That's a good name. It was hers, not yours to use. I wasn't suggesting. I know. I'm just saying. He turned back to the stove, his shoulders tight. She deserves her own name. Not a hand-me-down from a ghost. Lena nodded, understanding. The baby yawned, her tiny mouth opening wide, and something about the gesture made Lena smile despite everything. Despite the bodies buried behind the cabin, despite the blood still staining the porch, despite the knowledge that more violence was coming. What about Rose? She said. She came into the world fighting. Roses have thorns. Silas turned from the stove, considering. The morning light caught his face, highlighting every scar, every line. Rose. Too simple? No. It fits. Something almost like approval crossed his face. Rose. Yeah, that's good. So Rose it was. Lena whispered the name to her daughter, testing how it felt on her tongue, and the baby blinked up at her with dark, unfocused eyes. In the firelight, she looked almost otherworldly, this small creature who'd survived a brutal birth during a storm, who'd come into a world of violence and somehow slept peacefully through it all. Hello, Rose, Lena murmured. Welcome to the mess we've made. The next few days passed in a strange, exhausted haze. Lena was still recovering, her body aching and foreign, reminding her with every movement that she'd just pushed a human being into the world. Her breasts were sore and leaking, her belly still swollen, her back a constant throb of pain. And Rose demanded constant attention, feeding, changing, soothing. The baby had her days and nights confused, sleeping fitfully during daylight and wailing for hours after dark. Silas helped more than any man should. He held Rose when Lena needed to sleep, changed her when Lena's hands were too sore, walked circles around the cabin at 3 a.m. trying to soothe her cries. He never complained, never acted like it was beneath him. Just did what needed doing, same as everything else. You're better at this than I am, Lena said one night, watching him walk slow circles with Rose against his shoulder. I'm just bigger. Babies like being held by big things, makes them feel safe. Is that what you tell yourself? It's what I observed. Calves, foals, they all settle down when you're solid. Same principle. She's not livestock. Never said she was. But babies are babies, human or otherwise. They want warmth, food, and to know someone's there. Lena watched him, this rough, violent man moving with such surprising gentleness, and felt something shift deeper in her chest. It wasn't just gratitude anymore. It was something more complicated, something that scared her almost as much as her father had. "You're good at this," she said softly. "I'm passable. There's a difference." "No, you're good. You care, even when you pretend not to." Silas stopped walking, looking down at Rose's sleeping face. "Caring doesn't make you good, just makes you vulnerable." "Is that so bad?" "Usually gets people killed." "Not always." He looked at her then, his expression unreadable. "You're an optimist. That's dangerous up here. And you're a pessimist. That's lonely. Lonely keeps you alive." "Does it? Or does it just keep you breathing?" Silas didn't answer. He just laid Rose in her cradle and went back to staring out the window, watching for threats that might or might not come. A week after the attack, Lena was strong enough to walk the property. She moved slowly, Rose bundled against her chest in the sling Silas had made, and surveyed the damage. Bullet holes pocked the cabin walls. The porch railing was splintered where someone had fallen against it. The ground near the corral still bore dark stains that wouldn't wash away, no matter how many times Silas scrubbed. "We should leave," she said when Silas found her standing there. "Leave where?" "Somewhere else. Somewhere they can't find us." "There's nowhere they can't find us. Running just delays the inevitable." "So we just wait for them to come back?" "We wait. We prepare. And when they come, we end it." Lena shifted Rose in the sling, her hand protective over the baby's head. "I don't want her growing up like this, waiting for violence." "Then we make sure the violence ends permanently." "How?" "By making it clear that coming after you costs more than it's worth." Lena looked at him. "You mean killing them?" "If that's what it takes." "Even my father?" "Especially your father. He started this. He doesn't get to walk away." Lena should have been horrified, should have argued, pleaded for mercy, something. But when she thought of her father, of the way he'd looked at her on that auction block, the way he'd sent men to drag her back, she felt nothing but cold resolve. "Okay," she said. "Okay? You're right. This needs to end, whatever that takes." Silas studied her face, looking for doubt, hesitation. Finding none, he nodded. "All right then. We'll be ready." They spent the following days fortifying the cabin even more. Silas built barriers, set traps on the trails leading up the mountain, cached weapons in strategic locations. He worked from dawn until dark, his movements methodical and efficient. Lena helped where she could, though mostly she focused on Rose and tried to rebuild her strength. Her body was healing, but slowly. She tired easily, her back ached constantly, and breastfeeding left her perpetually exhausted. "You need to eat more," Silas said one evening, pushing a plate toward her. "I'm not hungry. Don't care. Eat." "Silas, you're feeding a baby. You need calories. Now eat before I make you." Lena glared at him, but picked up her fork. The venison stew was good, rich and hearty, and she found herself finishing the entire bowl despite her protest. Silas watched her eat, his expression satisfied. "Happy?" she asked. "Getting there. Have some bread too." "You're insufferable. And you're stubborn. We're even." Despite everything, Lena smiled. It was such a small thing, this bickering, but it felt normal, almost domestic, like they were something other than two people waiting for the world to come crashing down. That night, after Rose was asleep and Silas was cleaning his rifle by the fire, Lena asked, "What happens after?" "After what?" "After this is over. After my father's dealt with. After we're safe." "What then?" Silas didn't look up from his work. "Haven't thought that far ahead." "Liar." "All right, I've thought about it. Just don't know the answer." "What do you want it to be?" He was quiet for a long time. The fire crackled, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, carrying the scent of pine and coming rain. "I want you to be safe," he said finally. "Both of you. I want to wake up and not immediately check the perimeter. I want to eat breakfast without a rifle in reach. That's what I want." "That's all?" "That's everything." Lena watched him, the firelight catching his face, and felt her heart twist. "And us? What do you want for us?" Silas finally looked up. What do you mean? I mean, this. What we're doing. Living together. Raising Rose together. What is this? This is survival. Is that all it is? His jaw tightened. What else would it be? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Silas set down the rifle and leaned back in his chair. You want me to say something? I don't know what. I want you to be honest. I bought you because you needed buying. I kept you because you needed keeping. I'm helping with Rose because she needs help. That's the truth. And that's all? What else is there? Lena felt frustration rising. You tell me. You're the one who sits up all night making sure we're safe, who delivered my baby when there was no one else, who talks to her like she's a person even though she's barely 2 weeks old. If that's just survival, then I'm a fool. You're not a fool. Then what am I? Silas stood abruptly, running a hand through his hair. He paced to the window, stared out at the darkness, then turned back to her. You're someone I don't know how to talk to. All right? You want honesty? I don't know what this is. I don't know what I feel. All I know is that when those men came for you, I was ready to kill every last one of them. And when I saw Rose for the first time, something in me broke open that I thought was dead. So if you're asking me to put a name on that, I can't. I don't have the words. Lena stood too, moving closer. Try. Why? Because I need to know if I'm alone in this. Alone in what? In feeling like this is more than survival. Like maybe somewhere along the way we became something that matters. Silas looked at her, his expression raw. The walls he usually kept so carefully constructed were crumbling, and she could see the vulnerability underneath, the fear, the hope. You're not alone, he said quietly. Then say it. I just did. Say it properly. He closed the distance between them, his hand coming up to cup her face. His palm was rough, scarred, but his touch was gentle. You matter to me, both of you, more than I thought anyone could. That what you want to hear? It's a start. I'm not good at this, Lena. I don't know how to be whatever you need. I don't need you to be anything. I just need you to be honest. Then here's honest. I care about you. I don't know if it's love or something else, but it's real, and it scares the hell out of me. Lena reached up, covering his hand with hers. It scares me too. Yeah. But I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of just surviving. I want to live with you, with Rose. I want us to be a family. Silas's eyes searched hers. A family. Yes. You know what that means, right? Up here, that means we're married. No church, no papers, just us deciding that's what we are. I know. And you want that? With me? I want that. If you do. Silas was quiet for a long moment. She could see him wrestling with it, the fear of commitment, the fear of loss, the fear that he didn't deserve good things. Finally, he said, Ask me again in a month, after all this is done. If we're still alive, if we're still here, ask me again, and I'll say yes. Why wait? Because I want to give you the choice. Not because you're trapped here, not because you need protection, but because you actually want it. Give yourself time to be sure. Lena felt tears sting her eyes. I'm already sure. Then a month won't make a difference, will it? She almost argued, almost pushed, but she could see the vulnerability in his eyes, the fear that she'd realize she was making a mistake and regret him. So instead she nodded. Okay. A month. Okay. He leaned down and pressed his forehead against hers, and they stood there in the firelight, not quite married, not quite anything, but something that felt solid and real and worth fighting for. Rose started crying then, breaking the moment. Lena pulled away with a small laugh and went to pick her up. The baby was hungry, her face red with outrage, and Lena settled into the rocking chair to feed her. Silas watched them for a moment, something soft crossing his face, then grabbed his rifle. I'm going to check the perimeter, he said. In the dark? Best time to see if anyone's moving. Be careful. Always am. He took his rifle and slipped out into the night. Lena sat there, rocking slowly, feeding her daughter and listening to the sounds of the forest. She felt lighter somehow, despite the weight of everything hanging over them. Like naming what they had, even imperfectly, had given it substance, made it real. Silas was gone for almost an hour. When he came back, his expression was grim. He set the rifle by the door and washed his hands in the basin, his movements tense. "What is it?" Lena asked. "Fresh tracks. 2 horses? Maybe 3. They're watching us." "When?" "Can't tell. Could be tonight, could be yesterday. But they're out there." Lena felt cold dread settle in her stomach. Rose had finished nursing and was dozing against her chest, milk-drunk and peaceful. The contrast between that peace and the threat circling them was almost unbearable. "What do we do?" she asked. "We wait. Let them make the first move. They're scouting, trying to figure out our defenses. Once they know what they're up against, they'll either attack or give up. And if they attack, then we fight." It was the same answer as always, the only answer that made sense. Lena nodded and stood carefully, carrying Rose upstairs to put her in the cradle. When she came back down, Silas was at the table, cleaning his pistol. The firelight caught the metal, making it gleam. "How many bullets do we have?" she asked. "Enough. I stocked up last time I was in town." "And if it's not enough?" "Then we make every shot count." Lena sat across from him, watching his hands work. They were scarred, crooked in places from old breaks, but they moved with precision. Steady. Certain. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." "That's not what I mean. I'm scared of losing this, losing you, losing the chance to see Rose grow up." Silas looked up, meeting her eyes. "I won't let that happen." "You can't promise that." "Watch me." "Silas, I've survived worse. We both have. And we'll survive this too." "How can you be so sure?" "Because the alternative is unacceptable." It was such a Silas answer, blunt, definitive, refusing to acknowledge doubt. And somehow, it helped. Lena took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, then we fight. Then we fight." That night, Lena barely slept. Every sound made her jump, the wind in the trees, an owl calling, the creak of the cabin settling. Rose woke 3 times, fussy and difficult to soothe. By the 3rd time, Lena was in tears, exhausted and overwhelmed. "I can't do this," she sobbed, rocking Rose desperately. "I don't know what she needs." Silas appeared in the doorway, fully dressed despite the late hour. He took Rose gently from her arms and held the baby against his chest. Within minutes, Rose's cries quieted to hiccups, then stopped altogether. "How did you do that?" Lena asked, wiping her eyes. She was overstimulated, needed someone calm. "I tried to be calm." You were panicking. Babies can tell." Lena felt fresh tears coming. "I'm a terrible mother." "No, you're not. You're exhausted. There's a difference." He kept walking slow circles, his movement steady. "You've been doing this alone all day. That's too much for anyone." "You left?" "I know. I'm sorry. Won't happen again." "You can't promise that." "Watch me." Lena looked at him, this man who'd come into her life like a force of nature and refused to leave, and felt something in her chest unclench. He was right. She wasn't alone. Not anymore. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Stop thanking me. Make me." Despite everything, Silas smiled. Just a little. Just enough. Rose fell asleep in his arms, and Silas carefully laid her in the cradle. Then he turned to Lena and pulled her to her feet, wrapping his arms around her. She collapsed against his chest, letting herself be held, and for the first time all day she felt steady. "We're going to be okay," he murmured into her hair. "You don't know that." "I know enough." Lena closed her eyes and let herself believe him. Just for tonight. Just long enough to breathe. They stood there until Rose stirred again, needing to be fed. Silas reluctantly let go, and Lena settled back into the rocking chair. He built up the fire and started making coffee, even though it was the middle of the night. The familiar ritual of it, the measuring, the heating, the waiting, was somehow comforting. "Tell me about the war," Lena said as she nursed Rose. Silas looked up from the coffee pot. "Why?" "Because I want to understand. What made you... this?" "This?" "This person, who kills without hesitation but holds a baby like she's made of glass, who lives alone on a mountain but can't walk away from someone who needs help." Silas poured 2 cups of coffee and brought one to her. Then he sat in the other chair, cradling his own cup, and stared into the fire. "The war made me good at killing," he said finally. "That's all it did. Taught me how to shoot, how to fight, how to survive when everything around you is trying to kill you. But it didn't make me this. That came after. After what? After I came home and found Anna in the ground. After I realized that all the killing I'd done, all the men I'd buried, hadn't protected the one person who actually mattered. After I understood that violence only stops more violence if you're willing to use it first. Is that what you're doing here? Using violence first? I'm protecting what's mine. We're not yours. Aren't you? Lena looked at him over the rim of her cup. Is that what you think? That you own us? No, but you're mine to protect. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Owning someone means they don't have a choice. Protecting someone means you die before you let them get hurt. That's what I'm doing. That's all I know how to do. Lena was quiet for a moment, absorbing that. And if I asked you to stop? To let me handle this myself? I'd tell you no. Just like that? Just like that. You can make your own choices about everything else. But this is mine to handle. That's not fair. Life's not fair, but I'm still here, and I'm still fighting, and that's not going to change. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to assert her independence, her right to fight her own battles. But the truth was, she was exhausted, scared. And the idea of someone else carrying this weight, even just for a little while, was almost too tempting to resist. Okay, she said quietly. Okay? Okay. You fight, but I'm there too. I'm not hiding upstairs while you handle everything. Lena, no, that's the deal. You want to protect us? Fine, but I'm not a damsel, I'm a partner, and partners fight together. Silas looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, together. Together. They finished their coffee in silence, the fire crackling between them. Rose fell asleep at Lena's breast, and she carefully transferred the baby back to the cradle. Outside, the night was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that felt like a held breath, waiting to be released. They're coming soon, Silas said. How do you know? I can feel it. The way the air changes before a storm, it's coming. Lena believed him. And as she climbed back into bed, trying to steal a few more hours of sleep before dawn, she thought about everything that had brought her here. The auction block, the mountain, the baby sleeping beside her, the man downstairs who'd killed for her and would kill again without hesitation. This was her life now. And despite the fear, despite the violence waiting just beyond the tree line, she wouldn't change it, couldn't change it. This was where she belonged. The attack came 3 weeks later, just before dawn. Lena woke to the sound of horses and men's voices trying to be quiet. She was on her feet instantly, grabbing Rose from the cradle, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst through her ribs. Silas? He was already awake, already moving. In the dim pre-dawn light, she could see him positioning himself by the window, rifle in hand. His movements were calm, methodical, like he'd been expecting this. Maybe he had been. I know. Get in the corner. Stay low. Lena crouched in the far corner of the room, Rose clutched to her chest, and watched Silas. The baby stirred, starting to fuss, and Lena pressed a hand gently over her mouth. Not hard enough to hurt, just enough to muffle the sound. Her palm was shaking. Please, she whispered against Rose's soft hair. Please be quiet, baby, please. Rose squirmed, but didn't cry. Lena held her breath, listening. Below, she could hear footsteps on the porch. Someone testing the door. The creak of wood under weight. Then a voice, low and familiar, cutting through the morning silence like a blade. I know you're in there, Creed. Come out. Let's talk like reasonable men. It was her father. Nathaniel's voice calm and measured, like he was discussing weather instead of siege. Like he hadn't sent men to their deaths the last time. Like this was just another business transaction. Silas didn't respond. Just stayed by the window, rifle ready, watching, waiting. I've got 8 men with me, Nathaniel continued. His voice carried that particular tone he used when preaching, authoritative, certain, brooking no argument. You can't fight us all, so let's be smart about this. Send out my daughter and the bastard child and we'll leave you in peace. You can keep whatever money you've got left. Hell, I'll even throw in extra for your trouble. Just give them up. Lena felt rage surge through her, hot and sharp. The bastard child. That's what he called Rose, her daughter, his granddaughter. 3 weeks old and already condemned by the man who should have loved her unconditionally. Before she could think better of it, she stood and moved to the window opposite Silas. She pushed open the shutter just enough to see out. In the pale pre-dawn light, she could make out shapes. Men with rifles, positioned around the cabin like pieces on a chessboard. And there, standing by his horse in his Sunday best, was Nathaniel, straight-backed and righteous as ever, like he was on his way to church instead of war. "I'm not going anywhere," Lena called out. Her voice was stronger than she expected, clear and unwavering. The men below shifted, surprised. Nathaniel's head snapped toward her voice, his expression hardening even in the dim light. "Lena, be sensible." "I am being sensible. I'm staying here. With my daughter. And the man who's shown me more kindness in 3 months than you did in 20 years. That man is a killer, a criminal. He's corrupted you. And you're the man who put his pregnant daughter on an auction block. So who's the real criminal?" The silence that followed was heavy, charged. Lena could see Nathaniel's jaw working, could practically feel his anger radiating across the distance. "You've been poisoned against me," he said finally, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. "That's clear. But I'm still your father. I'm still responsible for you before the law and before common decency. You stopped being my father the day you sold me. I was trying to save you from yourself, from the shame you brought on our family, from a life of degradation and sin. The only shame I feel is that I ever called you family." Nathaniel's composure cracked visibly, his hands clenched at his sides, his face reddening even in the pale light. "Enough. You're coming down here. Now, or we're coming in. And if that child gets hurt in the process, that's on you." "Try it," Silas said, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "See how that works out for you. I've got 8 men, Creed, good men, armed men. And I've got high ground, cover, and enough ammunition to make this very expensive for you. Question is, how many of your men are willing to die for your pride?" One of the men below shifted nervously. Lena could see it even in the dim light, the way his rifle lowered slightly, the way he glanced at the others. They weren't professionals. They were hired hands, maybe friends of her father, men who'd signed up for intimidation, not a firefight with a known killer. Nathaniel saw it too. His face hardened further, if that was possible. "Then we'll burn you out. See how well your high ground works when the cabin's on fire and the smoke's choking you. You'll kill your daughter and grandchild in the process. Better dead than living in sin with a murderer. Better in the ground than damned for eternity." The words hit Lena like a physical blow, knocking the air from her lungs. He meant it. He actually meant it. He'd rather see her and Rose dead than let them live free. Rather burn them alive than admit he'd been wrong. Something cold and final settled in her chest, hardening like ice. This was never going to end, not with words, not with negotiation, not with appeals to mercy or fatherhood or basic human decency. The only way this ended was with blood. She looked at Silas. He met her eyes, and she saw the same understanding there, the same grim acceptance. No more running, no more hiding. This ended today. "All right," Lena called down. Her voice was steady now, cold. "You want to talk? Fine. Give me 5 minutes. I'll come down. Just me. Leave Rose and Silas out of it." "Lena, no," Silas started. "Trust me," she said quietly, meeting his eyes. Then louder. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Just you and me, face to face. Like a father and daughter should." Nathaniel was quiet for a moment. She could see him considering, calculating. Finally he said, 5 minutes. But if you're not down here by then, we're lighting the torches. And what happens after that is on your conscience, not mine." Lena handed Rose to Silas. The baby was awake now, looking around with those dark, unfocused eyes, completely oblivious to the danger. Silas took her carefully, his expression grim, his free hand reaching for Lena's arm. "What are you doing?" he asked quietly. "Ending this. By giving yourself up. No, by making a choice." She grabbed the rifle he'd taught her to use, checked the load with hands that were surprisingly steady, and slung it over her shoulder. Then she pulled the pistol from the drawer and tucked it into her belt. "I'm going down there, but I'm not going as a victim. I'm going as someone who gets to decide her own fate. They'll kill you. Maybe. Or maybe they'll listen. Either way, it ends today." Silas grabbed her arm harder. "I won't let you. You don't let me do anything. That's the whole point." She covered his hand with hers, squeezed once. "I need you to stay here with Rose. If something happens to me, you take her and run. Get as far away as you can. Change your names. Start over. I'm not leaving you. You have to. Rose needs someone. If we both die, she's got no one. She ends up right back where we started, alone, unwanted, at the mercy of people like him. She nodded toward the window. I won't let that happen. So promise me. Promise me you'll take care of her. He looked at her for a long moment, his jaw tight, his eyes burning with something fierce and desperate. Then he nodded once. I promise, but if they touch you, I'm killing every last one of them, slowly. I know. She kissed Rose's forehead, breathing in that sweet baby smell one more time. Then she kissed Silas's cheek, quick and hard. 5 minutes. If I'm not back, you know what to do. She went downstairs before she could lose her nerve. Her legs were shaking, her palms sweating, but she kept moving. At the door, she paused, took a breath, and stepped out onto the porch. The men raised their rifles immediately. 8 of them, just like Nathaniel had said, positioned in a loose semicircle around the cabin. Lena kept her hands visible, the rifle slung over her shoulder, non-threatening but present. A reminder that she wasn't defenseless. Nathaniel stood in the center, his face hard in the growing light. The sun was just starting to break over the mountains, painting everything in shades of gold and pink. Beautiful, peaceful, completely at odds with what was about to happen. Where's the child? He demanded. Safe. That's all you need to know. I want to see her. She's my blood. She's my daughter, and you'll never lay eyes on her. That's not negotiable. Nathaniel's face reddened. You don't get to negotiate. You're in no position to make demands. I'm in every position. You want me to come down here? I'm here. You want to talk? Let's talk. But Rose stays out of this. She's innocent in all of this. One of the men spoke up, a younger man Lena vaguely recognized from town. Nathaniel, maybe we should just quiet. Nathaniel's eyes never left Lena. You've changed. Yes. That man did this to you, corrupted you, turned you against your own family. No, you did this to me. He just gave me the space to become it. You were a good girl once, obedient, respectful, God-fearing. I was terrified. There's a difference. Nathaniel took a step forward. Lena's hand moved to the pistol at her belt. He stopped, his eyes narrowing. You'd shoot your own father. If I had to. You don't have the stomach for it. You're still that scared little girl, no matter what you pretend. Try me. They stared at each other across the space between them. Lena could feel her heart pounding, could feel the weight of the pistol at her hip, the rifle on her back. Behind her, she knew Silas was watching from the window, ready to act. And upstairs, Rose was safe. Everything else could burn, as long as Rose was safe. Here's what's going to happen, Lena said, her voice steady. You're going to take your men and leave. You're going to go back to Gravel Hollow and tell everyone I'm dead. Tell them I died in childbirth. Tell them I ran off with some traveling man. Tell them whatever makes you feel like you've won. But you're going to leave us alone, forever. And if I refuse, then people die, starting with you. Nathaniel laughed. Actually laughed, the sound harsh and ugly in the morning air. You think you can kill me? You? You couldn't even kill a chicken for dinner without crying. I was 12. I'm not 12 anymore. You're still weak, still soft. I'm still standing. After everything you did, everything you put me through, I'm still here, still breathing, still fighting. That's not weakness. That's strength you'll never understand. Strength? Nathaniel's voice rose. You call living in sin with a killer's strength? You call bearing a bastard child strength? You've destroyed yourself. No, I've built myself. From nothing. From less than nothing. And I did it without you. Without your approval. Without your permission. Without your love. I did it because I chose to survive. You survived by spreading your legs for the first man who showed you attention. The crack of the rifle shot cut him off. Lena had moved without thinking, without planning, the rifle up and aimed and fired before her conscious mind caught up. The bullet hit the ground 3 feet in front of Nathaniel, kicking up dirt. Everyone froze. The men's rifles came up, fingers on triggers. Silas appeared in the doorway behind her, his own rifle aimed. The morning air was thick with tension, with the smell of gunpowder, with the certainty that the next few seconds would determine everything. The next one goes through your knee, Lena said quietly. The one after that through your gut. You'll die slow, bleeding out in the dirt while your men watch. Is that how you want this to end? Nathaniel's face had gone pale. You, you actually... I actually what? Actually stood up for myself? Actually fought back? Yes, I did. And I'll do it again, as many times as it takes. You're damned. Maybe. But I'll be damned on my own terms, not yours. One of the men lowered his rifle, then another. Lena could see it spreading through the group, the realization that this wasn't worth dying for, that Nathaniel's pride wasn't worth their lives. She's right, the younger man said. This is madness. Let's just go. She's my daughter. She was your daughter. Now she's just a woman who wants to be left alone. And honestly, Nathaniel, can you blame her? Nathaniel looked around at his men, seeing the lack of conviction, the unwillingness to die for his cause. Something in him deflated. Not completely, but enough. This isn't over, he said to Lena. Yes, it is. You just don't want to admit it. I'll be back. With the law, with the church, with... The law doesn't care about a woman living on a mountain with a man who bought her fair and square in a legal auction. And by the time you convince anyone to care, Silas and I will be married proper. Then what's your claim? What judge is going to side with you over a legal family? Nathaniel's jaw worked. He had no answer because she was right. The law barely functioned out here anyway, and a legal marriage would shut down any claim he had. She'd be Silas's wife, Rose would be his stepdaughter, and Nathaniel would be nothing but a bitter old man with a grudge. You'll regret this, he said finally, his voice low and venomous. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. He stared at her for another moment, and Lena saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Not anger, not righteousness, but recognition. The understanding that he'd lost. That his daughter, the one he'd sold, the one he'd tried to reclaim, the one he'd never really known, was gone. And in her place stood someone he couldn't control, couldn't manipulate, couldn't break. You were my daughter, he said quietly. I was. But you killed that girl the day you sold her. What's standing here now is someone you made. So if you don't like what you see, that's on you. Something flickered in his eyes. Regret, maybe. Or just the recognition that he'd created his own enemy. Either way, he turned to his horse without another word. Nathaniel, one of the men started. I said we're leaving. But now. The men mounted up, clearly relieved this hadn't ended in bloodshed, but Nathaniel hesitated, one foot in the stirrup, looking back at Lena one last time. I could have loved you, he said, if you'd just been what I needed you to be. I know, Lena said, but I couldn't be that. I had to be what I needed me to be, and that's not your daughter anymore. He mounted his horse and rode away. The men followed, and within minutes they were gone, swallowed by the trees and the morning mist. Lena stood there on the porch, shaking, the rifle still in her hands, until she heard the door open behind her. Silas stepped out, Rose in his arms. He didn't say anything, just stood beside her, watching the empty trail, waiting to see if they'd come back. They didn't. After 10 minutes, Silas said, You all right? I think so. Oh, that was the stupidest, bravest thing I've ever seen. Did it work? They're gone, for now. They won't be back. You sure? I'm sure. He can't win this. His men know it, and deep down, he knows it too. Silas nodded slowly, then handed Rose to her. The baby was fussing, hungry and indignant, and Lena held her close, breathing in that sweet smell. What about the other one? Silas asked. The father? Lena had almost forgotten about him. James, the merchant's son who'd sweet-talked her, bedded her, and disappeared the moment she told him she was pregnant. She hadn't seen him in months, hadn't thought about him in weeks. What about him? He could still make a claim. On Rose. He won't. He made it clear he wanted nothing to do with me or the baby, and even if he tried, he's got no proof. No one saw us together. No one knows except me and him. You sure? I'm sure. Besides, even if he did come forward, what's he going to say? I got a woman pregnant and abandoned her, now I want the child? No judge would side with him. Maybe, but we should still be careful. Agreed, but I think the worst is over. Silas looked at her, his eyes searching. What you said to your father, about us getting married. You mean that? Yes? Because it's convenient, or because you want to? Because I want to. Because I choose you. Because, after everything, you're the only person who's ever let me be myself. Something in Silas's expression softened. You asked me to ask you something in a month. It's been 3 weeks. Close enough. Lena, will you marry me, Silas Creed? Proper, like you said. Not because I need protection, not because I'm trapped, but because I want to, because I choose you, because I love you. The last part came out before she could stop it. She hadn't meant to say it, hadn't even realized she felt it until the words were out. But there they were, hanging in the air between them, true and terrifying and utterly undeniable. Silas was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch gentle. Yeah, he said. I'll marry you. Yeah? Yeah? Lena laughed, the sound bubbling up unexpected and genuine, relief and joy and exhaustion all mixed together. That's it? Just yeah? What else do you want? I don't know, something romantic? I'm not romantic. You knew that when you asked. Fair enough. He pulled her close, careful of rows between them, and kissed her forehead. But I'll try. For you. I'll try. That's all I need. And Lena? Yeah? I love you too, in case that wasn't clear. It was the first time he'd said it, the first time either of them had said it out loud. And despite everything, the fear, the violence, the bodies buried behind the cabin, Lena felt something warm bloom in her chest. It's clear now, she said. They stood there on the porch, holding each other and their daughter, and watched the sun rise over the mountains. The light turned everything gold, washing away the shadows, and for the first time in her life, Lena felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 2 weeks later, they rode down to the trading post. It was a hard journey with a month-old baby. Rose fussed and cried, needed constant stops to nurse, hated being jostled on the horse. But they made it, arriving just before sunset. The trading post was a rough collection of buildings clustered around a central store. Silas knew the owner, a grizzled man named Carter, who asked no questions and kept no records. And Carter knew a man, a former preacher turned trader who'd left his congregation over some doctrinal dispute Lena didn't care about. His name was Reverend Mills, though he insisted they just call him Tom. He was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes and hands that shook slightly from what he said was old age, but Lena suspected was drink. You want to get married? He asked, looking between them. Yes, Lena said. You sure? Marriage is forever, or supposed to be anyway. We're sure. Tom looked at Silas. You treating her right? Trying to? That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. I'm not perfect, but I'm here, and I'm not leaving. Tom nodded slowly. Good enough, I suppose. He pulled out a battered Bible from a shelf. You got rings? They didn't. Silas had tried to make them, carving wood into circles, but they'd broken. No, Lena said. Don't need them, just need intent. Tom opened the Bible to a marked page. You got witnesses? Carter stepped forward. I'll witness. Anyone else? A woman emerged from the back room, Carter's wife, a stout woman with a no-nonsense expression. I'll stand witness too. Someone needs to make sure you do this proper. Tom smiled. All right then. Let's do this. The ceremony was brief. No flowers, no music, no guests beyond Carter and his wife. Just the 5 of them, 6 counting Rose, who slept through the entire thing, standing in a dusty trading post as the sun set outside. Do you, Silas Creed, take this woman as your wife? Tom asked. I do, Silas said. His voice was steady, certain. And do you, Lena Hartwell, take this man as your husband? I do, Lena said. She meant it with every fiber of her being. Then by the authority vested in me by nobody really, but by common sense and human decency, I pronounce you married. You can kiss if you want. Silas looked at Lena. She looked back. Then, awkwardly, sweetly, he leaned in and kissed her. It was brief, almost chaste, but it was real. More real than anything in Lena's life had ever been. When they pulled apart, Lena was smiling through tears. That's it? She asked. That's it. We're married. We're married. Carter's wife dabbed at her eyes. Well, that was lovely. Now let's eat. I made stew. They had dinner at Carter's table, venison stew, fresh bread, and coffee that was almost drinkable. Rose woke and fussed, and Lena nursed her while the others ate, feeling self-conscious, but also strangely at peace. This was her family, now. Imperfect, cobbled together from broken pieces, but hers. Tom raised his cup. To the happy couple. May your lives be long and your troubles be short. They all drank to that, even Lena with her coffee. And as she sat there, Rose at her breast and Silas beside her, she felt something she'd never felt before. Complete. They rode back to the cabin the next day. The journey was easier somehow, even with Rose's fussing. Maybe it was the weather, clear and warm, perfect for traveling. Maybe it was the knowledge that they were going home, not just to a place, but to a life they'd chosen. Whatever it was, Lena felt lighter. The months that followed settled into a rhythm. Rose grew, changing almost daily, her eyes focusing, her hands grasping, her cries becoming more purposeful and demanding. Lena learned how to read her daughter's needs, learned when she was hungry versus tired versus just angry at the world for reasons only a baby could understand. Silas built a proper cradle, then a high chair, then started planning a bigger bed for when Rose outgrew the cradle. They didn't talk much about the past. What was the point? It was done, buried like the bodies behind the cabin. Instead, they focused on building something new. Silas taught Lena how to shoot properly, how to track game, how to survive in the mountains without help. Lena taught him how to sew more than just basic repairs, how to cook things beyond basic stew, how to sing the lullabies her mother had sung to her before she died. One evening, about 6 months after the wedding, they were sitting on the porch watching the sunset. Rose was on a blanket between them, batting at a wooden toy Silas had carved. A simple horse, rough but recognizable. "I've been thinking," Lena said. "About what?" "About building something, not just for us, for other people." Silas looked at her. "What do you mean?" "Women like me. Women who need a place to go, who need help. What if we made this place a sanctuary, a place where people could come when they had nowhere else?" "That's a lot of responsibility." "I know, but we have the space, we have the skills. We know what it's like to need help and not have it." Silas was quiet for a moment, considering. "It's dangerous. Bringing strangers up here. We don't know their stories, what they're running from, who might come looking. Everything's dangerous. That's never stopped us before." "True." He looked out at the mountains, the peaks turning gold in the fading light. "We'd need more supplies, more space. Maybe another cabin, maybe 2. "So you're not saying no?" "I'm saying it's complicated, but if you want to do it, we'll figure it out. We always do." Lena leaned against his shoulder. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You're going to be doing most of the work." "I know. I'm counting on it." They sat there as the sun dipped below the peaks, painting the sky in shades of fire and shadow and deep purple. Rose babbled to herself, happy and content, grabbing at her toes. And Lena felt a peace she'd never thought possible. It took another year to build the second cabin. Silas did most of the heavy work, felling trees, hauling logs, constructing the frame, but Lena helped where she could, hauling stones for the foundation, mixing mortar, holding boards in place while he nailed them. Rose played in the dirt nearby, getting filthy and laughing, eating more dirt than Lena would have liked, but seemingly thriving on it. Sometimes Lena would stop mid-task and just watch her daughter, this miracle, this proof that something good could come from darkness. Rose had Lena's dark hair but Silas's steady gaze. Or maybe that was just Lena's imagination, projecting what she wanted to see. Either way, the girl was fierce, stubborn, unbreakable. The first woman who came was young, maybe 17, with bruises on her face that were days old, fading to yellow and green. She had terror in her eyes and a small bundle of belongings tied in a cloth. She'd heard rumors of a place in the mountains where women were safe, and she'd walked for 3 days to find it. Lena took her in without question, gave her food and a bed and space to breathe, didn't ask about the bruises, didn't demand her story, just let her be. Her name was Sarah. She stayed for 2 weeks, barely speaking, jumping at every sound. Then one morning, Lena found her in the kitchen, crying over a pot of porridge. "I'm sorry," Sarah sobbed. "I'm sorry, I don't know why." "You don't have to know why," Lena said, pulling her into a hug. "You just have to let it out." Sarah cried for an hour. When she was done, she told her story. A husband who beat her, a family who said it was her fault, a world that offered no escape. So she'd run, just packed what she could carry, and run. "You can stay as long as you need," Lena said. "I don't have money." "Don't need money, just need to pull your weight. Help in the garden, help with Rose, whatever you can do." Sarah stayed for 6 months. By the time she left, she was a different person, stronger, steadier, with plans to go west and start fresh. Lena gave her supplies, money, and a rifle. You know how to use this? Lena asked. You taught me. Then use it if you have to. Don't hesitate. Sarah hugged her hard. Thank you for everything. Thank yourself. You did the hard part. Others followed, slowly at first, then more frequently. A woman fleeing a violent husband. 2 sisters thrown out by their father for refusing arranged marriages. A mother with 3 children and nowhere to go. Lena helped them all. She taught them to shoot, to fight, to survive. Silas taught them practical skills, carpentry, animal husbandry, how to read the weather, how to set traps. And Rose grew up surrounded by women who'd survived the worst and chosen to keep living anyway. By the time Rose was 5, the mountain was home to a dozen women and their children. They'd built more cabins, started a large communal garden, established trade routes with friendly settlements. It wasn't easy. There were fights, disagreements, moments when Lena wanted to give up. But every time she thought about quitting, she remembered standing on that auction block. Remembered the helplessness. And she kept going. Silas changed too. The hard edges didn't disappear. They were too much a part of him, but they softened. He smiled more, laughed occasionally, usually at something Rose said, became someone the children ran to instead of away from, asking him to carve them toys or show them how to skip stones. And at night, when it was just the 2 of them in their cabin, he'd hold Lena close and whisper that he never thought he'd deserve this. This life, this family, this peace. You don't have to deserve it, Lena would tell him. You just have to choose it. I choose it every day. Good, so do I. One day, about 7 years after they'd married, a rider came up the mountain. Lena was in the garden with Rose, teaching her how to tell the difference between weeds and vegetables, when she heard the horse. Old instincts kicked in immediately, sharp and certain. She grabbed Rose's hand and moved toward the cabin, but Silas was already there, rifle ready. The rider was a young man, well-dressed in city clothes, sitting uncomfortably in the saddle like he didn't ride often. When he saw them, he raised his hands in a gesture of peace. I'm not here to cause trouble, he called. Then state your business, Silas said, rifle still aimed. I'm looking for Lena Hartwell, or Lena Creed, I suppose. Is she here? Lena stepped forward, her hand on the knife at her belt. I'm Lena Creed, who's asking? The man dismounted slowly, carefully. My name is Thomas Whitmore. I'm a lawyer from Gravel Hollow. I have a letter for you, and some legal documents that require your attention. From who? Your father. Nathaniel Hartwell. Lena's blood went cold. What does he want? He's dead, ma'am. Died 2 weeks ago. Heart gave out in his sleep. I'm here to settle his estate. Dead. Nathaniel was dead. Lena waited for some feeling to hit her. Grief, relief, vindication, something. But there was nothing. Just a hollow acknowledgement that the man who'd given her life and then tried to control it was gone from the world. What's that got to do with me? She asked. He left you something. In his will, the house in Gravel Hollow, some money, not a fortune, but enough to live on. And this letter. Thomas held out an envelope, thick and sealed with wax. He wrote it just before he died, asked that I deliver it personally. Lena didn't move. Silas looked at her, waiting for her decision. Rose tugged on her skirt, curious. Mama, who's that? No one important, sweetheart. Go inside. Rose ran off and Lena stepped forward to take the envelope. It was heavy paper, expensive, sealed with red wax. Her name was written on the front in her father's precise handwriting, shaky at the edges in a way she'd never seen before. Thank you, she said to Thomas. Is there anything else? Just that you have 30 days to claim the property if you want it. If not, it'll be sold and the proceeds distributed to the church according to his will. I don't want it. Sell it. Are you sure? It's a valuable property. The house alone is worth... I'm sure. Give the money to the church. Or burn it. I don't care. Thomas looked uncertain, but nodded. All right. I'll make note of it. If you change your mind within the 30 days, I won't. Very well. I'll leave you to your letter then. He mounted his horse and tipped his hat. My condolences for your loss, Mrs. Creed. Thank you, Lena said, though she felt no loss. Just a strange emptiness where something had been. He rode away, and Lena stood there holding the letter, feeling its weight. Silas came to stand beside her. You going to read it? He asked. I don't know. Want me to burn it? Maybe. Rose came back out, dragging her toy horse. Mama, I'm hungry. Go inside, sweetheart. I'll make lunch in a minute. Rose ran off again, and Lena looked at the letter. Part of her wanted to tear it up unread, throw it in the fire, pretend it never existed. But another part, the part that still remembered being that girl on the auction block, needed to know what it said. She broke the seal and unfolded the paper. The handwriting was shaky, written by a dying man who knew his time was short. Lena, if you're reading this, I'm dead. Good. Saves me the humiliation of saying this to your face, and saves you the discomfort of having to respond. I was wrong. About you. About everything. I thought I was protecting the family name, protecting you from yourself, protecting our standing in the community, but all I did was drive you away and lose any chance of knowing my granddaughter, of knowing you as the woman you became. I don't expect forgiveness. Don't deserve it. Don't even want it, really. Just wanted you to know that I see it now, at the end. You were stronger than I ever gave you credit for, braver, better. You survived what I did to you and built something I can't even imagine. Tom Mills came through town last year, said he'd married you and Silas proper, said you'd started taking in women who needed help, said you'd become someone I wouldn't recognize. I think he meant it as a criticism, but I took it as a compliment. You became someone better than I ever was. The house is yours if you want it. The money, too. Do with it what you will. Use it for your sanctuary. Use it to help those women. Use it to build the life I should have let you have from the start. I hope you're happy up there on that mountain. I hope Rose grows up strong and fierce and nothing like me. I hope Silas treats you the way I should have, with respect and love, and the understanding that you're your own person. I'm sorry I never told you that when it mattered. I'm sorry for a lot of things. Too many to list. But mostly I'm sorry I never let you know that despite everything, despite my anger and my pride and my stubbornness, you were my daughter and I loved you. I just didn't know how to show it. Nathaniel Hartwell. Lena read it twice. Then she folded it carefully and tucked it into her pocket, her hands shaking. Well, Silas asked quietly. He apologized. You say why it took him 7 years and dying to do it? No, just that he was sorry, that he was wrong. You believe him? Lena thought about it. I think he meant it, but it doesn't change anything. He still did what he did. The apology doesn't undo that. So what are you going to do? Nothing. Let the lawyer sell the house, take the money and use it for the sanctuary, build more cabins, buy more supplies, turn his guilt into something useful. You sure? I'm sure. My life is here. With you. With Rose. With all of this. She gestured at the cabins, the garden, the women working in the distance. This is what matters. Not some letter from a dead man trying to clear his conscience. Silas pulled her close. All right then. But I'll keep the letter. Maybe someday I'll show it to Rose. Let her know her grandfather wasn't all bad. Just mostly bad. And that even mostly bad people can see the truth at the end. That's generous of you. No, it's just honest. They stood there for a while watching their daughter play with the other children. Then Lena said, I want to tell you something. What? I'm pregnant again. Silas went very still. You're sure? I'm sure. About 3 months along, I think. And you're just now telling me? I wanted to be certain. Last time, I didn't want to get your hopes up if something went wrong. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. Better than fine. I feel good, strong, like my body actually knows what it's doing this time. Silas let out a breath he'd been holding. Another one. Another one. Rose is going to lose her mind. I know. I can't wait to tell her. He kissed her then, properly, deeply, and Lena felt that same flutter in her chest she'd felt the day they got married. After everything, all the pain, all the fear, all the violence, they'd built something beautiful, something that would last. When Rose found out she was going to be a big sister, she danced around the cabin screaming with joy, her toy horse forgotten on the floor. The other women congratulated them, and that night there was a celebration, food, music, laughter. Silas played a fiddle he'd carved himself, badly but enthusiastically, and Rose danced with the other children while Lena sat by the fire, one hand on her growing belly, and watched. This was what winning looked like, not a grand victory, not revenge or justice or any of the things she'd once thought she needed. Just this. A life built on choice, a family forged from broken pieces, a future that belonged to them. The baby came in late winter, a boy this time, squalling and red-faced and perfect. They named him Samuel, after Silas's brother who died in the war. Rose was fascinated by him, wanted to hold him constantly, kept trying to feed him dirt because, "He looks hungry, Mama." Silas was even gentler with this one than he'd been with Rose, if that was possible. He'd hold Samuel for hours, just watching him sleep, his expression soft in a way Lena never got tired of seeing. Years passed. The children grew. Rose became a wild, fearless thing, climbing trees, catching frogs, demanding to learn everything Silas could teach her. Samuel was quieter, more thoughtful, content to sit and watch and ask endless questions about how things worked. The sanctuary on the mountain became known throughout the region as a place where the desperate could find hope. Women came from as far as 3 states away, some with children, some pregnant, some just broken and needing space to heal. Lena became a midwife, delivering babies for the women who came to them. She'd delivered 17 by the time Rose was 10, and each one felt like a small victory. Each new life a middle finger to everyone who'd said these women were worthless, damaged, beyond saving. Silas taught the older children how to hunt, how to build, how to survive. He built more cabins, a proper barn, or a smokehouse. The mountain became a small village, self-sustaining and fiercely protective of its own. They grew old together, not gracefully. There was nothing graceful about the way Silas's knees gave out, or the way Lena's hands ached in the cold, or the way both of them needed reading glasses by the time they were 50. But they grew old together, surrounded by the life they'd built. On their 20th anniversary, they sat on the porch watching the sunset, same as they had 1,000 times before. Rose was grown now, 25, and married to a good man she'd met on a supply run. They lived in one of the other cabins with their own children, 2 girls who called Lena Grandma, and Silas Pap Pap, and climbed all over him despite his protests. Samuel was 16, tall and strong like his father, but with his mother's eyes. He was already talking about exploring beyond the mountains, maybe going to the city, learning things they couldn't teach him here. It scared Lena, but she understood. He needed to choose his own path, same as she had. "You ever regret it?" Silas asked. "Regret what?" "All of this. Staying here, marrying me, building this place instead of going somewhere easier." Lena took his weathered hand in hers. Their fingers intertwined automatically, muscle memory from 20 years of holding hands. "Not once. You?" "Not once." Liar. "All right, maybe once. When Rose was 3 and screamed for 6 hours straight because I wouldn't let her eat dirt." Lena laughed. "That was a hard day. That was a nightmare. I thought my head was going to explode. But we survived it. We survived everything." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the light fade from the sky. Somewhere in the distance, children were laughing. Somewhere closer, someone was singing. And here, on this porch, 2 people who'd started as buyer and bought killer and victim, master and property, had become something neither of them had ever expected. Partners. Equals. Home. "I love you," Lena said quietly. Silas squeezed her hand. "I love you too." It was the truth. Simple and hard-won and absolutely real. They'd earned it. Every bruise, every scar, every moment of fear and pain and desperate hope. They'd earned this peace, this life, this love. And it was enough, more than enough. It was everything. Rose came out onto the porch then, her daughters trailing behind her. "Mama, Samuel wants to know if he can take the horse down to the trading post tomorrow." "By himself?" "He's 6 to same age you were when—" Rose trailed off, realizing what she was saying. Lena smiled. "Same age I was when I ended up pregnant and disowned. Yes, I remember. I didn't mean I know, sweetheart, and yes, he can go. As long as he takes the rifle and promises to be back by dark." Rose kissed her mother's cheek. "You're a good mama, you know that?" "I'm passable. There's a difference." "No. You're good. You gave me a life I wouldn't have had anywhere else. You gave all of us that." Lena looked out at the cabins, the gardens, the women and children moving through the evening light. This small world they'd built from nothing, from less than nothing. "We gave each other that," she said. "All of us. Together." Rose smiled and herded her daughters back inside. Silas stood, joints creaking, and held out his hand. "Come on, let's go to bed before my back gives out completely." Lena took his hand and let him pull her up. They went inside, locked the door, checked on Samuel, who was already asleep, sprawled across his bed like he'd been dropped from a height, and climbed the stairs to their room. They'd added onto the cabin over the years. It had a proper second floor now, with a real bedroom instead of just the small space Lena had first locked herself in. The bed was big enough for both of them. The quilts were thick and warm, and the window looked out over the whole valley. Lena changed into her nightgown while Silas pulled off his boots, groaning at the effort. They'd gotten old. When had that happened? It felt like yesterday she was 22 and pregnant and terrified, and now she was 42 with grandchildren and a lifetime of choices behind her. "What are you thinking about?" Silas asked, settling into bed beside her. "How we got here. From there to here. Long road. Worth it? Every step." Lena curled against him, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Still strong, still steady, still here. "I was so scared that day," she said, "on the auction block. I thought I was going to die there." "You almost did, just not the way you thought." "What do you mean?" "The girl who stood on that block did die. She had to, for you to become this." He gestured vaguely at her, at the room, at everything. "Sometimes you have to die to live." Lena thought about that, about the girl she'd been. Terrified, ashamed, convinced she was worthless. That girl was gone. Dead and buried, mourned and released. In her place was this, a woman who'd survived, who'd fought, who'd built something lasting from the ashes of her old life. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For buying me. For keeping me. For loving me." "Stop thanking me. We've been married 20 years. At some point it gets ridiculous." "Never." Silas laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. "Stubborn woman. You knew what you were getting into." "Did I, though?" "You absolutely did." They lay there in the darkness, comfortable and warm, and Lena felt herself drifting toward sleep. But before she went under completely, she said, "Silas? Hmm? If you could go back to that day in Gravel Hollow, would you still buy me?" Without hesitation. Even knowing everything that came after, the violence, the fear, all of it? Especially knowing that, because all of that led to this. And I wouldn't trade this for anything. Lena smiled in the darkness. "Good answer. It's the truth." She fell asleep like that, held and loved and finally truly safe. And in the morning, she'd wake up and do it all again. Tend the garden, help the women, raise her children, build her sanctuary, love her husband. She'd choose it all again, every single day, for the rest of her life. The end.